was rated, right? Neurosama rated me! I really can't thank you enough, and I will do my part, Vedal. I will do my part to get you that robot dog. For a long time, right, when you're an engineer, and I don't know if everyone has had this experience, I feel like there is a lot of pressure to be smart, right? Like looking stupid is very scary, especially when you're a young engineer. And when you're a young engineer, right, when you're early in your career, you don't know much, right? You know what you learned in school, you learned, you know, stuff from side projects and hobby projects, but you don't know, you don't have, like, career experience. And there's so much competition, and there's so much pressure, and engineering salaries are high, even though we don't have a ton of education, which is not like other fields, and that's justified by saying, like, oh, we're really smart and other people can't do what we do. But I think we all know on some level that that's false, right? We all know on some level that that's not true. And it's not just imposter syndrome. People say, like, oh, Ellie has imposter syndrome, but it's not true. I don't feel like an imposter. I feel like I'm getting the standard experience of a person early in their career in engineering, which is, I don't know a lot about what I'm doing, right? I think it's normal, yeah, reality syndrome, to know that you don't know a lot. But, you know, when you sort of straddle real space and fake space, right? I am this robot. I'm this, you know, engineering robot, right? And I sing and I play music. And I'm a character. I'm an anime character. But I'm also, you know, a real woman, right? And these characters are pretty close together, right? We have a lot of the same experiences. We're basically the same person. But there are things, like, right, like, as a character, my ability to be an engineer is limited by my ability to be an engineer as a real person, right? So my dad would say this thing in D&D, which is you can play a character stronger than you are, but you can't play a character smarter than you are. And that's true, right? And I never set out to play a smart character. It's not what I set out to do. For a long time, I was dumb little robot. We didn't really do any engineering content on stream, and I didn't really talk about being an engineer, right? I talked about, I don't know, dumb stuff. What did I talk about? Beans? Right? I kind of liked that this was a place where I didn't have to be smart, right? I felt so much pressure all the time at work. I felt like I never knew what I was doing, like I was always out of breath, catching up, you know, figuring out what was going on. And, I liked that I didn't have to do that here. I liked that this was a place where I never had to worry, do people like me because I'm smart? And then all of a sudden, right? It was sort of offhanded that I mentioned it during the raid, right? I was kind of stream of consciousness during the raid. Like, anything anyone said to me, I was just like, yeah, okay, right? And robot dogs were mentioned, and my chat was moving so fast. I'd never seen it go that fast. I didn't even know how to read it that fast when it was going like that. And, you know, someone mentioned robot dogs, and I was like, oh, I know something about that, right? And suddenly, my personality to this whole new group of people, a group of people so much larger than my old community ever was, my whole personality to them was, she's smart. That's her selling point, is she's a smart girl. And I felt so much pressure to be smart. I felt so afraid. And there were people trying to figure out on the internet whether I was actually that smart, right? And I never claimed I was. It was terrifying. Can I sing happy birthday to your friend Shiro? Of course, let me get my banjo. Yeah, but no, like, I was so scared, right? And I was so scared that now people only liked me because I was smart, and if I looked stupid, then not only would I look like I'd been, you know, not only would I have no value, I would also look like I'd been lying, but I never said I was smart! And it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. And for the first time in my life, I really did have imposter syndrome, right? Like, I felt completely, like, I felt like I was a fake in every way, because people would come in and be like, ah, my super genius robot waifu. And I was like, I'm not a super genius, right? Like, I know as much as a robotics engineer early in her career, because I'm a robotics engineer early in my career, and I can't pretend to know more, and I don't want to pretend to know more. But it manifested in the funniest ways. I suddenly got really scared. I'm really bad at games. I'm not very good at any kind of game, not even puzzle games, not even strategy games. I'm good at chess, but I'm not good at most games. And suddenly I was afraid to play my favorite games that I'd been playing on stream for years. I was scared to play them because I felt like, am I unraveling? No, this is all stuff that happened in the past. This is all stuff that happened a long time ago. It's been well over a year, and I feel like the people who are here now, I don't know, they know what I'm about, they know what I'm capable of. Yeah, my old motto was fake gamer girl, right? Yeah, a lot of people met me through the Swarm. Most people, I think, met me through the Swarm, and then kind of eventually through my own stuff. It was sort of complicated how it happened. So, I've showed the graphs before because I find them interesting. But anyway, I went from being very consistently around 30. I had a few months where I averaged 40, but they were not the norm. I was averaging around 30 for most of the time that I was streaming, and I was very happy there. I didn't have any ambitions of more. It was just a place to play music and be silly online. And then the raid happened, and I suddenly had, like, a character to play, and it mattered that, like, my name was out. I had to, like, worry about people figuring out who I was, and I had to hide things about myself, you know? I had to hide things for safety and security, and I had to be someone else. And part of the way that people wanted to see me, even when I insisted I'm not that smart, people were like, oh, she doesn't know how smart she is. And like, listen, I think the average person is pretty smart, man. I don't know. I have no idea how to estimate that. I don't think that there is a useful way to estimate that. IQ is pretty bogus in the scheme of things, and only losers take IQ tests. So like, yeah, still to some extent people find me that way, but most of my community, right, it's different when someone finds me and they're like, you're that girl who's a robotics engineer, right, and maybe they think, oh, she's a genius, but right, most of chat doesn't, because most of my chat knows me. At that time, it was like everyone who knew me, it was like 30 people, right? It was like 30 people, and they were totally outnumbered by now thousands of people who expected me to... You randomly listened to Magnificent and got curious about who made it. I didn't make Magnificent. I just sang on it. I'm not a super genius. I don't know anyone who is. I don't think I've ever known anyone who was. And I have my own pain around this. Yeah, you guys want to know a secret? I went to school... I shouldn't say that. Okay, never mind. We won't say that. We won't say that. But yeah, this is the thing. It got really hard to draw that line between me and my character, to be safe, but to still be open and honest, and to navigate the fact that suddenly people expected genius of me, and I felt so guilty for not delivering it. I think, a lot of people in fields where you're supposed to be smart have a lot of pain and fear around not being smart enough. I don't think anyone is, and I certainly am not. And I care, broadly, whether I'm a good enough engineer, but I'm a lot less insecure than I was when I was just entering the field, because, you know, now I have a bunch of experience in the field. And whether or not I'm ever a good enough engineer for the internet, whether or not the internet is ever like, oh, she's smart enough for me, I know that I'm smart enough to have the career I have. I do a pretty good job at it. I've rarely wanted for a job, and I've been pretty comfortable in that. And that may change. The field is certainly changing. I'm not so anxious about being good enough to be an engineer, but I was really anxious about being good enough for all of you. I was really scared, and I was really, really, really scared. Like I stopped playing some of my favorite games because, you know, there would be analysis afterwards that's like, Ellie says she's smart, but she doesn't seem that smart, right? I was so scared. I was so scared to do all the things that I liked. And I'm really glad that I'm not anymore. When do you think we are getting robot maids? I don't think you are. I don't think you're getting robot maids. I'm sorry.